Welcome to another episode of the Advice First podcast. This is your host, Robert Clark. And if you're watching us on video today on YouTube, it's probably going to look a little bit different than it normally does. I have a virtual guest with me and a very important one, Miss Karen Santilla. Welcome to the Advice First podcast. Karen, how are you?
Hi, Robert. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. Our listeners don't even know everything that they're about to learn and all the insights that you're about to share, but I do, and that's why I'm extremely excited. Karen, can you start? Would love to just kind of paint a picture for our listeners of your background and where you come from on the professional side and a little bit about where you are now.
Okay, great. Well, I'm really happy to be here. I really love your content and your show, and I'm honored that you are having me here. But the way I have ended up here where I am is I know you, Robert, through your mother. Your mother and I worked together for 3 decades for one of the major pharmaceutical companies. And we go way back and with your mom. And what has happened is that I hit a point at age 51, and I had almost 3 decades with a major pharmaceutical company. And I found myself in the middle of being downsized. So me and 1,200 of my other colleagues were downsized, and our entire division was let go at a time. And this was about 10 years ago. And so I found myself at age 51, 3 decades with my career. And I am at a fork in the road, basically, because I hadn't planned on being laid off at that point. The downsizing happened, and it was just being in the wrong division at the wrong time. And I had an opportunity at that point to either go with one of our competitors, because, when there's a big layoff like that in the industry, the competition and the other companies know when there's kind of I would call it a talent dump into the marketplace. And so they want to swoop up, the people who have the contacts and who are experienced at the job. And so I did get a lot of offers to do the same job that I had with the pharmaceutical company for some other companies. But I was at a point where I had almost 30 years. It was 29 and a half years. And I thought, I'm at this fork in the road. I like this work. Do I love it enough to continue to do this after, almost 3 decades? And I found myself thinking, you know what, I'd like to take a little break. That gap year that I never took, after you go to college, maybe I'll take the gap year.
Yeah.
Here, because I'm 51, and I, had been working since when he interviewed on my college campus, really. And so I just had gone straight to work. And so at that point, I will admit I was tired. I had worked very hard my whole life. And I had an opportunity to take a little break, because the good thing that happened, and I always think there's always a blessing to be found whenever you go through, a tough time or a tragedy. I've always found there to be a blessing on the other side. Sometimes you don't know what it is. But what happened with me was I thought, I'm at this fork in the road. I'm 51. I'm not old enough to retire, but I have the opportunity now to make some choices, and maybe I can do something different right now, or I can go back to doing what I have been doing, just for a different company. Well, what I decided to do was to take that gap year, think about what I wanted to do. And I was fortunate enough to be in a financial position where I actually could retire at age 51. So that's really good. I was very happy about that. But if you think about it, I'm age 51. Who wants to retire at that age? I know probably a lot of people do, but I wasn't one who really wanted to retire. I like working. I like having a sense of purpose. I like being productive. I really love checking things off my to-do list. I really do like that. And so I really like work. I like the rewards of work. So I didn't want to retire. I just wanted to sort of slow down a little bit. And so I did. Now, financially, I was at the point where I was lucky enough. I had my 401k. So you're talking 30 years of investing in my 401k. I took a little bit of a hit during the financial crisis of 2008, but I was fortunate enough to manage my money that I didn't lose I think the whole market went down 40% or something during that time. I lost about 30. So I figured I was a little bit ahead, and I had made up most of that by 2011, which was when this happened. So I had my 401k, and then I was fortunate enough also to have a pension with the pharmaceutical company. And I am very grateful for that. It was really great that I was with the company at the time when they had that. And I had the opportunity at age 51 to actually get access to my pension because I had been with them for so long. The age plus years of service meant that I could get access to that money. And we're talking, this is a 7-figure amount in the lump sum at age 51. It was a prorated amount because that was in early retirement, but they said, this is your amount that you can either take the lump sum or you're eligible for the annuity from my pension. And so I had to decide, okay, I have that. Let's look into this a little more because this started a lot of researching and educating myself because I'm now in this position. And what I realized in looking into the parameters of getting access to my pension was that the annuity that they were going to offer me was not coming with a cost of living increase. And so I realized that at age 51, if I'm going to take this annuity, and it'd be great, I'll have this for the rest of my life, but I'm looking at another 45, 50 years that I'm expected to live because I did go see a financial planner and he told me about the actuarial tables. And I believe at that time, 10 years ago, a 65-year-old was expected to live to 96, 97.
Yeah.
And so I'm expecting I'm going to live to be 100. I'm pretty healthy and I have that expectation. And so I've got to make this money last another 50 years if I were to retire. And so I kind of had that mentality of what can we do? Can I live off of this for the rest of my life? So I kind of took that as a challenge to take that money in my pension and my 401k, and it was a lot of money that I had access to, and make it work for me. And so I looked into what are some maybe different ways that I can make this money work for me, because I had been kind of spooked by the financial crisis in the stock market. I'm a baby boomer, and our generation really took a hit with the financial crisis. And so that was weighing heavily on me. And the stock market to me is, and we've even recently seen this, it's easily manipulated by people who know more about it than I do. And, GameStop, et cetera, has been in the news. And it just, I know, and we saw with the financial crisis and the movies that came out about it, The Big Short, I think was a really good movie about that.
Yeah.
I realized to me, the stock market's a little bit like a casino. And I know enough about it to invest, with one of the custodians who carry those Fidelity, Vanguard, TD Ameritrade, or TD Scott Trade, or whatever they're called now. Anyway, I knew enough to work with them, but I wanted to kind of take it a little bit further because I have always been interested in real estate, and I wanted to see if I could turn my money into making money off of real estate, because to me, that was something that I could control more than I can control the stock market. I can learn about it. And if I put the education and the research into learning how to invest in real estate, and I know even in California, if you buy property, even in a bad area, it will go up in value. I mean, that's just the way it is. Yeah. So I wanted to invest in real estate and also just learn how to do it. It was a new area of something that I wanted to learn. And so that's what I did. And I learned how to do that. Sorry, I'm making a long story short, or a short story long, I should say.
I love this.
And that's kind of my path that I took. And so I had always followed Robert Kiyosaki's work. He wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, one of the best books of all time that I have read to help with my mindset. And he helped me to learn how to be a real estate investor. And I had been following him before this, so I was very familiar with his work. But then I started listening to his podcast. I started buying more of his books, and I started really getting into it. And so I did take one of their weekend courses to learn how to be a real estate investor, how to do foreclosures, there's contracts, what to do, just the whole legal process of it, because it's a lot to know. And so I learned how to do that. And then since then, and this is the last 10 years, I have been able to buy several properties. I've flipped them. I think I'm on maybe not several, I'd say 4 to 5 within the last 4 to 5 years that I've been able to, be a real estate investor now. And now I know how to run the numbers on the percent that you're getting back. California is a tough place to invest in real estate, but there are deals that you can get. Depends what your goals are now. And I now know how to do that. And so I have that skill set on top of all the other skills that I learned in my corporate job. And so that's where I got to where I am with the real estate. And I just took the money that I had after my long corporate career and invested it in real estate to help grow my money. And I've been able to stay ahead of the market compared to if I had just taken the annuity or taken the lumps. Well, I did take the lump sum on my pension, but I was able to turn it into getting the real estate that I have. So it's been really fun.
That is absolutely brilliant. And so much of what you just shared is exactly why I was excited to have you as a guest today, Karen, because I know our listeners just listen to that and they're like, yes. I've had the same options as far as taking a lump sum versus getting a long stream of payments and, trying to do the math and where do I put the money if I take money, yada, yada. And so I want to ask you, I love that you really looked at the real estate route. I'm a huge fan of real estate personally, but what were your goals when you were considering that avenue? Was it a cash flow play? Was it, I just want to grow my money or just preserve it? What were some of the thoughts that, as you started to look at properties?
Well, that's a great question. And actually both criteria were in play for me. If you follow Robert Kiyosaki, he talks about making sure that the numbers line up, and it's always for cash flow. Cash is king, as you know. And I needed to replace the cash flow that I was switching out of that annuity that I was going to get. So I wanted to at least beat or exceed the amount that I was going to be getting anyway. And I was able to do that. And so I did want to invest for cash flow. And that's why I had said California is a tough place to invest for cash flow. You can invest for equity and you're going to go up in equity, but you got to have the cash flow if you're going to run a business, invest in real estate. It's all about the cash. And so I will never look at a deal if the numbers don't add up. And I have, a minimum 5% cap rate for here in California, which is pretty low, but for California, it's pretty high. And I've been able to get 7-8% on a couple of the rentals that I've had. And so it's been very helpful for me, but I think you have to look at both, but my goal was number one, always cash flow. And then of course to increase the equity because I flipped a couple of the properties as well.
Yeah. How scared were you when you bought that first property?
Very scared, very, very scared. In fact, I'll give a tip that I would not, if I knew then what I know now, I would not do it. And they always say this, but sometimes you have to learn the hard way, which is kind of the way I learn sometimes, but at least I learn. I was so scared about actually even being an entrepreneur because I've been an employee my whole life and I'm a great employee, but when you're doing things for yourself, you're doing things for yourself and you don't have the resources of a company to make a phone call or, whatever, to have the IT guy come and fix your computer or whatever. And so first of all, I had to get the mindset of I'm an entrepreneur now. And so, that's different. But I also knew that I needed to make sure that I had the solid foundation that I need to have in order to take that step. And so it was very scary to the point that I actually knew the person that I rented my first property to. And I don't recommend, she wasn't my friend, but she was somebody that I knew, friend of a friend. And a couple of issues happened where people don't like to have their rent raised on them. And I think sometimes they think if you have a friendly relationship with them, there was kind of the expectation that, hey, we know each other, you're going to keep me under the market rate of whatever the rental increases were. And there was a couple of years, 2013, 14, the rental rates were going up 8 to 10% a year. Yep. I never did that. I know that, it's tough making your rental payments in California. I get that, but I also am, in business and I'm a business person. And so it's just easier to do things like that. I mean, there's no risk of a personal relationship with people maybe getting their feelings hurt because there was a sense of maybe expectation that, that I'm not going to run this as a business. And, there are rental increases. And so, for example, that year there was an 8% rental increase across the county. And I raised my rent by, I think, 4%. And this person was so not happy. And I just thought, okay, maybe we're not the right match. And so that was one thing that I did that I wouldn't do again. Just don't rent to people that you either are friends with or, a friend of a friend. I'm able to have a personal relationship and a business relationship with people, but not everybody can do that. And so that's what I found. So that's what I would do differently. But I did it because I was so scared. Right. And it helped me take that leap. And so it worked.
So have you been managing your own properties?
Yes. And so that's the other thing. When you rent property, you have two choices. You can either manage it yourself or you pay a property management, and it's usually 10%. Yeah. And if you have more properties, it's usually less, as you know. And the thing is, there's a joke. It's tenants, toilets, trash when you're renting property. And so you have to be able to deal with people's issues. You have to have a group of people. I have vendors that I can call. You got to have a handyman. You need to have a plumber, the electrician, because there's always something that's going to go wrong. And when it's a tenant, they're renting from you. And I also have very high expectations of myself as far as delivering good customer service to my tenants, that's another thing I found out. Most people who are like sort of the mom and pop renters or landlords, some of them are just horrible to their tenants. And I couldn't believe some of the stories that I heard from people who had rented from people before me. And I just thought, who does that? So I always try to treat people the way I would want to be treated. And if somebody's got, a dripping faucet in their bathroom, get somebody over there that day instead of saying, okay, next week when I get around or whatever. So I do that. And that's just something that you have to have the skill set. The fact that I was in sales for 30 years, I'm good with people and I've got good people skills. And so I'm able to, manage people very well, but the actual logistics of finding a reliable construction workers and having somebody, because it's just me. I've got a couple properties. I don't have a big company. And so the good tradespeople are hard to find. And so you need to find people that you can go to right away. So that was something else I had to do. I had to seek out people, go through a few of them, get burned, but it's a new skill set I was learning. It's a new area of business I was doing. So it was a lot of learning, a lot of on-the-job training. But I loved it. I was ready for a new challenge, and it was just really great for me.
Absolutely. And it sounds like it. I mean, when you think back to 15 years ago, or even 11 and 12 years ago, while you were still in corporate America, did you ever see yourself being in the position where you're in today?
No, I didn't, because I never thought that I would be downsized from my company. I had worked for them for almost 30 years, and I had planned on retiring when I was 55 from them. And so I thought at age 55, that's still pretty good, but that was going to give me 35 years with them. Right. And I set myself up financially to be able to do that. So I always did have that goal, but I didn't really do succession planning for myself, for my own career, because I never really thought beyond, wow, what am I going to do after I retire? And it came sooner than I wanted. And quite frankly, I wasn't happy that I wasn't able to control my exit. That was something I had to deal with, because I had planned to go out at age 55 and, I had everything set, and then I didn't. And so I had to deal with that. So first I had to handle that part of sort of my identity, being so tied up in my career and, just going through all that. And then the sudden change in my life. And then these big decisions I had to make, which is what we're talking about. But to answer your question, no, I didn't. And it's just been crazy and fun, because you just never know where you're going to turn up in life.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right about that. The other thing that comes to mind, because, I know this ways you and my mom have an amazing relationship. And I recall even her voicing similar concerns when you leave an organization, and especially when it's, not on your terms,
right? If
you're not going somewhere else immediately, there can be, a loss of identity or just a feeling of a loss of control.
Yep.
Did you feel any part of that while you were also trying to figure out, what you were doing going forward?
Yeah, I really did, because it's hard not to take that personally, but it really wasn't personal. It was a business decision that the company made. But when you have so much of your life and your identity tied up into your work, it's an adjustment. And so I did have to adjust to that and accept that, you can only control what you can control. And sometimes when a door closes, a window opens, or whatever that saying is. And so I just, thought about it a lot. And I think getting in touch with your intuition as far as what it is you really want to do, because we've been so programmed to follow the script in life and to do what is expected of us. And we do that, and Robert Kiyosaki talks about this a lot. You follow the rules, you work hard, you study hard, you go to school, you get a good job. And then I'm thinking, I'm going to retire. They're going to give me, I didn't expect a watch, but, I did have the pension. I thought, I was going to end up like that. And that didn't happen. And a lot of that happened during the financial crisis of 2007, 2008, 9. And a lot of people were just stunned at how their best laid plans kind of fell out from under them. And so, yes, my professional, I would say my professional identity did have to, I had to process all that, because the other thing that I noticed happened was people treated me differently. See, one day I was a corporate executive, I had people just, treating me the way you treat someone who has a high profile, high status job. And then I just realized that people treated me differently. And that was eye-opening. It was just kind of eye-opening to say, okay. And then you realize how much of your ego is tied up in your work. And that was very humbling for me, but I actually welcomed it, Robert, because at that age, at age 50, the things that happen when you're 50 is when you round the corner at age 50, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners and your clients are in this place. When you turn 50, a lot of people have trouble turning 50. You realize you're not young anymore. You're not old. Your hopes and dreams of your life have either come true, you've exceeded them, or some people, their dreams and hopes haven't come true, and life beats us up. And so I think at age 50, it's kind of a reckoning point. And I turned 50, 51, and then this happened to me professionally. And, we all have personal things that happen to cause us to have ups and downs, as you know, in life, tragedies. And you just get to the point where I was scared. I was at a fork in the road. I had to change things, but I just always had faith that things would work out, and they have. And it was scary because I had always had that structure of my company, my job, the people that I worked with. And that was not there. And so you have to find ways to be resilient. And so, that was something that I had to go through. But I think a lot of people, when they turn 50, I think every time you pass a decade or you have a milestone birthday, you reflect on things. You think, how did I get here? Where have I been going? Where am I going to be? Where do I want to go? What are my goals? And it's just a constant reassessment. And the world is changing so fast now, and things are so different. You really have to, sort of keep that in mind. I look at it like playing chess. Playing chess. Do you play chess, Robert?
I don't.
Okay. It's a great game because you have to be strategic. And you learn to, when you make a choice on the chessboard, you have to think through the consequences of that action. Because what's your opponent going to do? If I make a move on the chessboard, well, that either leaves me in a strategic position to pounce on my opponent, or they're going to get me. But I just think it's a good way to sort of go through life like that, because the game of chess forces you to think through the consequences of your actions. And so you have to do that every day. But a lot of times, as you know, when big life decisions happen, you also have to do that.
You mentioned something really important there early on when you were talking about a loss of identity and kind of how you personally managed through it. And you said something so critical about going back to and aligning with, things that you're passionate about, things that you love. And that is so important. How have you been able to incorporate things like that? We've talked a lot about your financial journey, but how have you been able to successfully, go back to things that you care about and that excite you over this period?
Well, what I have done is just this whole journey of becoming an entrepreneur after being a really good employee my whole life was a change in the way that I'm thinking. And the thing about my corporate job is, as much as I really liked it, it wasn't really a creative outlet for me, because it's a heavy science. It's a very regulated industry that I was in. We're talking to doctors all day long, medical people who are more highly educated than I am. it's a different world. And it's not, you can't be that creative just because, you know, you're dealing with drugs and pharmaceuticals and you're talking to doctors and you need to teach the doctors how to utilize the drugs properly with their patients, et cetera. And so what I decided to do at this point in my life is I also wanted to work on my digital skills because, of course, being a baby boomer, as you know, we were not raised to be, I call them digital natives, whereas my kids your age, the millennials and beyond that, you're raised with computers. And I liken it to somebody learning a language. And if you learn your native language, you know your language, you speak English as a native speaker. But I look at the digital side of it or the online side as I'm learning this language, but I'm always going to be speaking with an accent. So I can learn the language, but I'm someone who speaks digital world with an accent because it wasn't my native thing. And so that was another thing that I wanted to learn about because social media is now very big. And I went into social media the same way most people in my generation. And it's a place where my kids, were posting pictures of themselves that I had to tell them to take down because that's not appropriate. And that was in high school when Facebook came up. And so I just always thought social media was just this place where people just are horrible. And, that's basically social media 1.0, which is when it came on. But, now people can make money on the internet. So it's social media 2.0. I guess it's internet 3.0 or whatever. I don't know what number it is. Yeah. But anyway, I saw that people were able to make money on the internet. And I thought, well, if they can do it, I can do it. I'm smart. I can learn, right? And that actually looks kind of fun. But I just didn't want to do it because I don't take selfies. I'm not the selfie generation. And I never posted like on Instagram, for example. Maybe I'd post some vacation pictures on Facebook. But I realized I'm going to have to get comfortable on social media if I want to do this. And I wasn't. And so that's actually been a learning curve that I've had. And I've been doing that a lot this past year because I want to increase my digital intelligence so that I can go onto the internet and participate in the marketplace that is there. And it's such a gold rush now, as far as it's a wide open field and people can be as creative as they want to be, as you well know, and find an income. And I'm looking at I'm thinking about, I just want streams of income now. I don't need to go find another career. What streams of income can I look at? Because that way I can have the freedom that I want to have that I didn't have as a corporate employee. But I want to wake up when I want to wake up, not have to go out and fight traffic, although everybody works from home now, but you know what I'm saying? I want freedom. I had the financial freedom, but I want the time freedom to do what I want to do when I want to do it. I'm willing to work 18 hours a day. Well, maybe not at this point in my life, but I want to be the 18 hours a day that I choose.
Yes.
And so I've been able to do that. So I created an Instagram account, a business account, and I've actually been posting pictures and getting more comfortable. And I've kind of been doing it as I go to force myself to get out of my comfort zone. Because like I said, I'm still not comfortable totally with the selfies on Instagram and Facebook, but I'm getting there because I know I need to do it to reach my goals. And my goal is to create an income stream. And so what I've been able to have happen just over the last year is I've had brands actually, because it's also kind of wide open out there for brands going onto social media now. They're going away from TV and print advertising, and those marketing budgets are going to social media, as you know. And so there's an opportunity there. I call it the low-hanging fruit. And if the brands are willing to give money away to people to, promote their brands, if it's something I believe in, I'm willing to do that. And so I've actually been approached by a few brands. And a lot of them will give you product if you're a small account, because I only have maybe 1,000 followers right now. I don't have a huge following, but some of the brands are looking at people who have a smaller following, but they have great interaction and reach and impressions, and they engage with their followers. And I do that. And so I've actually had in the last year, I'd say 5 or 6 brands have reached out to me just to promote their product. Wow. Because people who follow me are their customers. Mm-hmm. And they want the eyeballs of the followers on their brand. And so I didn't know all this was happening. I just figured all this out that maybe in the last year or two, because, I'm a baby boomer. Okay. This isn't our natural habitat. Yeah. And so I've been learning about this, and it's actually been really fun because now I've got someone who helps me with my social media. I hired a millennial, and I mean that in the most endearing way, because the younger generation has the digital skills that my generation doesn't naturally have. And I have been able to help her. She helps me. And I think when you combine, there was actually a study out of MIT, I believe, that showed even companies that combined, say, the emotional intelligence of the older generation, the baby boomers, with the digital intelligence of the younger generation, you get a synergy there that you don't get. And so I've been able to find that. I'm working with someone who's younger than me that has those digital skills, but I also have the skills of, hey, I'm this old and I've survived in the world. And, I can teach you a thing or two about, life's ups and downs. And so I think those two components work really well together. And so I'm having a lot of fun, and I've got an Instagram account and I've got a stream of income. It's great. And it just happened.
That is phenomenal. And the influencer economy is definitely, Instagram and even beyond. When you look at YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, especially, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I have to say, my generation, the baby boomers, if there's anyone listening, I just want to encourage them. I know it looks, maybe it's not something that we're used to, but just go ahead and jump in, because it's really not that hard. And I just feel that if you fall behind on communication and kind of where things are happening, it's not a good place to be in. And I even have some friends that they even struggle with some of the digital things that, we all use now. And I just want to encourage people to just go jump in, create an Instagram account for yourself. I have learned so much on Instagram. There's so many people on there, even Facebook. Each social media platform has kind of their different personality, I would say, or people use it differently. But on Instagram, I have learned so much on Instagram because, listen, there's therapists on Instagram. They're not doing therapy, but they're giving coaching. There are people sharing their knowledge, sharing their education. People who are into embroidery or cars or pets, I'm into my pets, or skincare or hair. There's some niche there for every subject that you're interested in. And if you just follow those hashtags and learn how to use it, I love it. I've learned so much. There's so many creative people out there like me, like you, who are just sharing what they know. And I love it. I think it's great. So that's actually the good part of social media. You can focus on the bad part if you want. And I think too many people of my generation do. But I'm here to tell everyone, go ahead and jump in. It will bring you value that you didn't know. And you'll have fun. You might make some money.
It's possible. Absolutely.
Not a bad thing.
Yeah. But Karen, what's your Instagram handle?
So thank you. SoCalGal _ 60. SoCalGal _ 60.
Awesome. Make sure to go find Karen on Instagram, support what she's doing, and take a couple notes of how she's doing it, because I think what you said is spot on. It's everyone's sharing value on there. And if you look at all the bad things, you're going to find the bad things. If you look for all the great things, you're going to find people like Karen.
Exactly.
Karen, I have one last question here as we wrap, and I would love to get your insights on, what are the goals that you have going forward for yourself? What do you think about in that light?
Well, where I am right now is I have launched a business on Amazon, and I'm driving some business through my social media account. And so if you do go to my Instagram account, I don't have the number of followers where you can get the swipe up, but I have a link on there where I can advertise my products that I have on Amazon. So that's another stream of income that I'm working on. And that's my focus right now, is I really would like to grow my e-commerce business to the point where maybe I will have an exit, in a couple of years. I'll build it up, or maybe I'll just keep it as a little side hustle and kind of get some income coming in. I'm not sure, but I'm having fun figuring out where that's going. But I'm really focused on the e-commerce side of things now, and getting my digital skills and just really going into that world and having as much fun with it as I can. And this is really fun. And I've made some great friends on the internet. And the internet, like you said, it's like you're dealing with the general public, and some neighborhoods you stay out of, just like on the internet, and you find where the good neighborhoods are, where the good people are that you want to hang out with, and stay away from the bad areas.
Yeah. Yes. I love that. Ladies and gentlemen, Karen Santilla, go find her on Instagram. She's at SoCalGal _ 60. Karen, it has been so great to have you on our podcast, and I thoroughly loved what you shared with us today. Is there anything else that I didn't ask that you wanted to share while we're here?
Oh no, this has been so fun, Robert. I'm honored that you want to talk to me. I'm just a person who's trying to figure out life, and I think I've made more good choices than bad. And here I am at this point in time, and I think it's wonderful what you're doing, and I think what you're offering on your own channel is just really great, and it's so valuable. And I really like the way you're doing it, and I just want to thank you for the opportunity to talk together. Really fun.
I appreciate that. Well, you've by accident become a serial entrepreneur, so you are awesome
Yeah.
to talk to, and thank you
Yeah.
again.
Thank you, Robert. My pleasure.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Next Financial Group, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Prosperitas Financial is not an affiliate of Next Financial Group, Inc. This material is not intended as an offer or solicitation for the purchase of sale of any security or other financial instrument. Past performance does not guarantee future performance. All the views expressed are those of Robert Clark and Prosperitas Financial, and not of those of Next Financial Group, Inc. Next does not offer tax or legal advice. The S&P 500 is a market cap weighted index composed of common stocks of 500 leading companies in the leading industries of the U.S. economy. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is a price weighted index of 30 actively traded blue chip stocks.